Sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight is turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel it somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Hello everyone, welcome to SimRacers World TV for the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 World League. The fourth round it is, not the fifth, and I'll get that fixed quickly indeed. My name is Hasse Rømer. I am here with the knowledgeable man that is Peter MacKay, and we are here for an, well, dare I say interesting, I think it's going to be very good indeed. 40 minutes of GT3 racing here from the legendary Spa Francorchamps in the Belgian Ardennes. It is going to be quite the challenge for the drivers. This is indeed just where we've had the Belgian Grand Prix, incidentally, today. And without saying too much, I think we're going to have a more interesting race than the Formula One drivers. Peter, welcome to you. Nice to have you along in the booth. And what are your expectations for the race tonight?
Well, Hasse, it's an absolute pleasure to be here for the Sunday GT3 World League with thanks to SimracerCoin. And well, Spa Francorchamps for many is as good as it gets as far as racing tracks go. You ask many pro drivers, many of them will tell you that Spa is the finest circuit in the world. And like you say, it comes from an area famous for this circuit, but also famous for other wonderful things like chocolate, fine beer, and most importantly of all, fantastic fries as well. So this is pretty much paradise down in Belgium. And today, well, GT3 cars are no stranger to this particular circuit. Of course, the famous Spa 24-hour GT3 only race nowadays, and that's what we're going to enjoy today, and I'm sure it's going to be an absolute cracker.
Indeed so, and as you said, it's I think every time we come here to Spa, we expect some good racing, because this is one of the most raceable tracks, well, in the world, I guess. This is one of the most opportune racetracks around, and I think we're in for an absolute treat. As you just said, Peter, we do agree on that one. Welcome, and a very warm welcome, a very good evening to everyone tuning in, of course, on our YouTube channel, and also on Twitch and on our Facebook page as well. It's lovely to see you, and do keep it going in chat. It keeps us going as well. It's always nice to see a lot of activity coming through here. Well, we're looking at our championship leader, Valdir Suarez Jr., not American, he's Brazilian indeed, and he is showing some of that Brazilian driving talent. They're renowned for it. And he has actually taken a clean sweep, a hat trick, to lead the series by 90 points out of 90 possible. Hugely impressive, I have to say, from Valdez Suarez Jr. We had a very, very interesting end to the race 3 weeks ago. It's been since we had the race at Lime Rock Park. And let's see if he can make it for as well here in qualifying. I just want to get the qualifying mode on so we can see what kind of lap times are being set here. I think we have yet to have the first lap time posted. This has to be the first couple of flying laps that are coming in here. Oh, welcome, Jack. Nice to see you. Jack Werrell, of course, usually he's a colleague of ours in the booth, but he's here tonight racing. He's racing this series. I think he is in the pit lane, but he is there in an Antoine Hubert commemorative livery, paying his respects to the, well, horrible incident that happened. And I don't want to be a party pooper, but it's nice to see Jack paying his respects to the late Antoine Hubert. Here is Jose Godinho, the Portuguese, in the very Jeff Gordon, it is actually a clear on Jeff Gordon Audi R8. Just not a bad thing at all, should be said. And still awaiting the first couple of lap times. And as I say that, actually, Eric Verley has posted the first lap for 2:22.6. As I say that, I'm just gonna have a moment to have a look at the standings here. But it is Valdez Suarez, as I mentioned before, 90 points out of 90 possible from him. And then Kamal Hashemi, Pete Plastow, they're equal on 67. Cohen Mulder fourth with 61. Eric Verley, he's fifth in the standings with 49 points. Then Alfredo Tricorici, the Argentine BMW driver, he's on 46 there in 6th place. Then Dirk Reski, the German, and McLaren up there in the top 10 as well, 45 points for him. Jose Godinho, when we're watching right now, he's 8th in the championship standings. Savino Melillo, the Italian Ferrari driver, on 35. And then in 10th, it's Pedro Marimon Cladera, who is on 35 point alongside Drew Williams of the United States of America. And Robert van den Heuvel, or Rob the Lobster, as he's a very nice nickname there for Rob. So that's the top 10 of the standings, and back to the qualifying action at hand.
Yeah, so here at Spa, the qualifying is quite tricky because of the track limits here at Spa. They're very strictly enforced. The stewards at Spa particularly fierce, and if the drivers do step over that track limit at all, the system will automatically discount that lap. And with just 20 minutes to go around this 7-kilometer circuit, you actually don't have that many attempts at a flying lap. So sometimes getting a good banker in and just maybe going about 90%, get that banker in and work up to a time is sometimes a good way to do it. However, of course, here we have a group qualifying session, so all of the drivers out on track together, rather than sometimes in iRacing the drivers are given the blissful solitude of the circuit to themselves. But in this particular championship, they have to go out and qualify together, and that can throw up all kinds of fun and games, can't it, Hasse? It can throw up mind games of people going slow on the on the racing line, which is of course very naughty. You can see people trying to get an aerodynamic slipstream behind another driver and all kinds of other things as well. So getting out there and getting some laps in, as we see one of the Mercedes turned around, and things like that, things that you can't necessarily control, can spoil a lap time.
So here's Drew Williams. That's very true indeed. Oh, so that's someone in front, the BMW, and that is the number... What BMW was that actually? I'm a little bit surprised there. Jacob Gibson, I think. Yeah, here it is. Well, he just went wide, and then round goes the Mercedes in behind of this. So, well, interesting stuff going on, but luckily for them, just qualifying 8 minutes in, nearing the halfway mark of the session here. the Pavicic for Holy Cow Racing, a team that has a number of entries by now. A rugged gang of racers coming to pick up points. Oh, somebody goes around. In the background, that's Nils Cornelis, I'm afraid. And that is in Malmedy, the corner following the Le Combe chicane. And he even picks up a little bit of inside wall as well. Here's Stephen Kral in that 28 AMG Mercedes. Gets a little bit of oversteer on, and that is straight into the tire barrier as well. A little bit of an interruption there in the qualifying session for those gentlemen here. Valdir Suarez Jr., 5th place at the moment, Peter. He's not where he's used to be at the head of the standings. And, well, we've seen him save his very best laps for the latter parts of the session. Do you think that's what he's up to here tonight as well?
Yeah, I think from my memory, we saw him do that at Lime Rock Park. But of course, at Lime Rock Park, the lap there was about 50 seconds, very, very short indeed. Whereas here at Spa, well, you're well over 2 minutes. So it's very different complexion for qualifying altogether. Interestingly, Hasse, I see a couple more BMWs running up near the front. The wonderful BMW Z4, the normally aspirated V8, wonderful engine, beautiful noise that it makes as well. And of course, all these cars very different in their character. They're very close on lap time, but very different character. The BMW, the very, very planted, very, very easy to drive, but maybe a little bit of understeer and certainly not the fastest car in a straight line. The Audi is probably the trickiest to drive on the limit, but one with potentially the most lap time to come out of it. The Ferrari also very strong as well. It's a mid-engine machine, so probably more similar to the Audi. But it's amazing how all these cars so different in their layout, but very, very close in lap time.
Yeah, indeed they are, and it's I think it's going to be a close one to call here for which car is actually the strongest. It is very true indeed that usually the BMW does do well here at Spa, but Koen Mulder and his Ferrari up there as well. Dirk Reske in the McLaren 4th at the moment, so very much up there, very much in contention, and could throw up a bit of a surprise here tonight. The McLaren, known to be fast if you can master the driving style that it takes to really, master the car. In the end, it is not an easy beast to drive. And I saw, and I'm not sure this is completely correct, but it might have been a lap containing an incident for Jack Warrell, but that was a 2:20.6, so around the pole time at the moment. But the Pavicic is, if everything is correct indeed here. Gaston Boré is coming up towards the line at the moment. What time is he going to post here? It's going to be a 2:24. And that's going to be good enough for him to take provisional 16th place. Here he is in the Ferrari, making his way through La Source. And then, of course, he will roll down the straight towards Eau Rouge and Radio, and then the Kemmel straight to come. And you'll find that the GT cars here are some of the most difficult cars actually to take these kind of corners, these very, very high speed corners, where in higher downforce cars it's an easy flat section up there. It isn't always in these GT3 machines. Then into the Le Combe chicane, a Malmedy right-hander, and then down towards a tight right-hander with several names. It goes a little bit wide. Might have been enough to pick up an incident there. I'm not quite sure on the in-hand side here. But Rivage, it was called in the olden days. Now, some people refer to it as Brussels as well. Coming up to the corner that doesn't have a name. It's no name, of course. And then down the hill, accelerating hard yet again. And of course, this next double left-hander, some call it double gauche as well, but most of us know it by the name of Pouhon. And I'll do my best not to call it Pouhorn, of course, which I have a tendency to do sometimes. I know, so bear with me. Laugh at it. As it should be laughed at anyways. The Laforge chicane. Oh, a bit of a slide there for Gaston Boré. Still riding on board here down towards the Stavelo complex. which is located close to the nearby village of Stavelo 1 and 2 here, and then on to the Paul Frere Strait, as it's called, which is not really a strait. I guess it's straight-ish, but it does preserve a few kinks there, and then legendary Blanchimont corner, where you don't want to run too wide, and into the bus stop chicane. Gaston Boré comes to complete another lap of Spa Francorchamps.
Yeah, what a beautiful circuit! Not only just the track layout, but also the surrounding scenery around. It's absolutely beautiful place to drive race cars, and you're absolutely right. Hasse, corners like Blanchimont, Eau Rouge, and Radion, you know, like you say, in a single-seater car or maybe an LMP1 car, more or less easy, flat out. The aerodynamics squashes the car into the ground, and you just hold it flat out and just let the car do the work. But in these GT3 cars, particularly when the track temperature is high, it can be a little bit of more of a balancing act as well, and we're going to see that being the case. Also, we noticed there when we're on that onboard, when you come around Blanchimont, if you catch that inside curb, it's very, very easy to then spear off into the barrier, so you don't really want to be taking inside curb there. Very, very risky indeed.
Indeed,
we see 3/4 of the way through the qualifying session already, so just a couple more opportunities for our drivers to set a qualifying time.
Yeah, Pete Plastow, who's sitting well up the overall standings, currently 11th on the grid here. So he's going to be looking for improvements over the last 5 minutes of the session here. And any corner that hasn't a name should automatically be called, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die." Which is, to be fair, the feeling of "oh my god, I'm gonna die" is a feeling that I'm well familiar with. And No Name is actually a corner where it's another one of those corners at Spa. If you clip too much of that inside curb at No Name, it's gonna throw you off. And it's a corner where you often see people just carry that little bit too much speed, lose the rear end of the car, and just lose it round. And as so many other places on Spa, it's an old track designed in it's built in 1974 as a replacement for the old Spa Francorchamps road circuit, which was dangerous to say the least. In many places they've of course expanded runoff areas and such, but there are also, Peter, still a lot of places actually where in such a classic racing fashion the walls are right there at the side of the track, and I think that's always a pleasure to see. It doesn't really give a lot of room for error indeed.
No, certainly not. It's a track that's really developed over its time. Of course, Juan Manuel Fangio won the first ever Belgian Grand Prix here back in 1950. But like you say, before the circuit was converted or changed to a permanent circuit, in 1973, Henry Pescarolo set a lap record that still stands to this day for the old course, 262 kilometers an hour average speed in a Matra sports car. That is just frightening even just saying that, let alone can't imagine what it was like setting that lap time. But a little bit of insight on the No Name corner. It's actually now been given the name of the Jackie X corner. Of course, Jackie X, one of Belgium's greatest ever drivers and a 5-time winner of the 1,000 kilometers of Spa.
Oh, so no more No Name, and welcome to Jackie X corner. And yet again, it is of course our man Peter MacKay with the facts, and not so much the fiction. I think we leave the fiction up to me and the facts up to Pete, and usually it comes up with it comes up as a good end result anyways. Pete Plastow, 8th place for him at the moment, so he has indeed gone and improved a little bit. Let us see here, now down to 9th place actually. Valdir Suarez, Peter, is still in 5th place, and we've seen him do this before. But look at this on this lap that he's on at the moment. I don't think that it's going to be... It doesn't seem to have been an amazing lap all the way around for him. So let's see just what it looks like. Valdir Suarez, who will make this final lap, but I also believe it will be his final lap. So it's one last chance for our championship leader to improve upon 5th place on the grid Eric Verley, by the way, currently 6th. We've got Cohen Mulder, who is currently out there as well. Mauricio Coelho, I think a couple of drivers who have yet to set a time. Ralph Salomon as well have yet to put in a time. They're actually coming onto the line right about now here. So let's see, we're watching Salomon, where actually Coelho is going to make it to the line first. He's going to cross the line in 2:24. I think if it did register the time, I'm afraid he had a 1x, at least a 1x, at least one incident, off-track incident, that was deemed to make that lap not count. But to be fair on these drivers, actually, by the way, it's very, very easy to pick off these off-track incident points in certain places at Spa. Here we're watching Eric Verley, and this very place, actually coming out of the Jackie X corner on his way down to Pouhon, is one of the places where it is the easiest as well here. Valdez Suarez Jr., we're going to look back at him. I think he is coming through the Le Forge chicane. He goes a little bit wide. I don't think it's going to be wide enough for one of the aforementioned incident points. And in through Stabilo to the straight. I think he's looking poised here. But it doesn't seem to me that he's improving. One man who is improving, at least on a couple of sectors there, is Kamal Hashimi, who's also up there in the standings, Peter. And he is at the moment in 11th place, so I'm sure he would love a bit of an improvement there, but I don't think he improves in the end on his current best lap time. And so it is, 11th starting place for Kamal Hashimi. Let's see here, Valdez Suarez Jr. Is going to be any kind of improvement for him at 2:23.5, so that's not going to get him any further up the order here. Dirk Reski, though, still with a shot, still with a chance here, as the checkered flag has indeed dropped for this session, and that means that we are just watching the final couple of cars make their way across the line here to complete the qualifying session, which on the lap called off as well there for Dirk Reski, who I think will take 4th in the end. Stephen Orrell is out there as well.
Yeah, really a mixed bag. We've got 3 manufacturers in the top 4. We've got BMWs, we've got Ferraris, a McLaren as well. Great to see, great drive from Dirk Reski to get his McLaren up into 4th place. Quite an old, relatively out-of-date GT3 machine compared to, say, the Audi or the Mercedes, and great drive from Dirk Reski in the McLaren MP4 12C. I have to say, I was in the town where I live, Hasse, we came up behind a lovely dark red, almost red wine-coloured McLaren MP4 12C. What a beautiful road car.
Yeah, it is. It is. They are some magnificent machines indeed here. Gaston Boré, who we rode along with earlier in the session, he calls off his final lap. Here is Martin de Jong, who is coming down towards Blanchimont, so he could be finishing that lap, but it doesn't look to be a super fast lap to me. He's 10 seconds to cross the line here. Sounds like a lot, it really isn't. And Martin de Jong is looking to improve upon a 222.65? Pavicic indeed leads with a 220.57. I think we do have the last bit of cars across the line. And with that said, I will see if we can get the starting lineup, the starting grid on display, and when it does show up, I will hand you over to Peter MacKay for the read-through.
So let's see how they line up then for the SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 World Series Round 4 here at the beautiful Spa Francorchamps in Belgium. It's going to be a very exciting one indeed. Watch out for that opening turn 1. It's going to be very, very tight indeed. The last source, always a hot spot for action, and getting through there cleanly, very important for our drivers. Just waiting, we'll get our results up for you in just a second, and we'll be not too long before we get ready to go for our race this evening.
Yeah, so just a bit of tricks playing on us here. It doesn't really seem like it wants to show a whole lot of qualifying results here, so I'm expecting it to be, well, anytime soon. Oh, and just as I say it, there it is.
There we go. So, for Holy Cow Racing, Dean Pavicic puts it on pole position by nearly 9/10 of a second from Koen Mulder. A brilliant lap from Pavicic. In row 2 will be Artie Boschart alongside Dirk Reske in the McLaren. 5th is your championship leader Valdir Suarez alongside Eric Verlet. Row 4 will be Niels Tasters alongside Savino Melillo. Row 5 will be Pete Plastau and Jose Godinho. Row 6 will be Kamal Hashemi, also for Holy Cow Racing, and I missed the person in 12, my apologies. Justin Nair will roll off from 13th alongside Alfredo Trigarici. In 15th will be Dion Neuveld alongside Drew Williams. 17th will be Martin de Jong alongside Chris Pio in the Ford GT. 19th will be Robert van den Heuvel, Robert the Lobster, as you might know him, in 19th. 20th will be Damien Koba. 21st, Stephen Kral. 22nd, Gaston Borry. 23rd, Niels Cornelis. And finally, in 24th, no, not finally, Mauricio Coelho. 25th, Dirk Brinksma. 26th, EJ Fulner. 27th, Timo Paiha. 28th, Pedro Cladera. 29th, Jacob Gibson. Jack Werrell will roll off from 30th. 31st will be Ralph Solomon. 32nd, Paul Rozek. And finally, in 33rd, Skip Carey.
So a 33 car grid, and we're only seconds away, I think, by now from getting the rolling start underway here. Of course, Spa Francorchamps, one of those tracks that doesn't feature an entire lap of formation, warm-up, whatever you want to call it. And you know what? We'll be happy for that in the end, Peter, because it is a long track and that would take us quite a bit of time. So with that said, Dean Pavicic, Koen Mulder is our row 1 starters, followed by Artie Boschart and Dirk Reske as well in the McLaren. And then watch out for Valdir Suarez Jr. as they're off and on, and 40 minutes of Spa Francorchamps is underway. And let us see, it's a very good start for Pavicic. Further down the order though, into La Source they go. Valdir Suarez, and then it's Verlet, Teasters, Manilo, Plastau 9th, and then Jose Coutinho. I think Kamal Hashemi made up a position there, and he is on the move. And yes, indeed he did, but they're going to be too wide, more or less. Oh, he just squeezes in before... and I think, I'm afraid, we have had issues at the very start of the race here as well. Oh, and somebody's gone off early. Oh, and there's a huge pileup!
Oh my.
Oh my word. An absolutely huge pileup. Here was Koen Mulder, and somebody got launched into space there. And I'm just gonna hop back to some live pictures because it's all happening at the moment. And look at this. Cars going slowly, cars suffering. And we're gonna see who made it through the chaos here. Pavicic, Boschart, then Niels Teasters and Eric Verlet. Valdir Suarez in 5th, then Pete Plastau up in 6th place, Jose Coutinho, Kamal Hashemi, Stephen Orrell, then Justin Nair is in 10th, Martin de Jong 11th, and then we've got Dion Newell and Tricarici in 13th, then Damien Kopa, Gaston Boré, then Van den Heuvel, Cornelis, Stephen Kral, and Jack Werrell up into 19th place. So I'm gonna just scroll back. If we can just have a look. Just gonna go over what happened here. Early days. Here's Jacob Gibson. This is oh, so they managed to actually touch just before the green flag, but that's relatively it's a relatively harmless incident considering the severity of what we saw. I mean, is this the incident? No, that's a related incident as well here. Gibson has another problem. And we have drivers off. And I'm just trying to find that big incident that happened on the Kemmel straight. And I think this might show us a bit more. It's Drew Williams. He loses it, takes the wall. And actually, they're already crashing up ahead. So, unrelated to that, Drew Williams goes off. And that might have been what we saw up here. Here it is. It's Dirk Reske. Oh, and it's the car in second place as well. So, and well, to be fair, it's not the first time we've seen these kind of things happen at Spa Francorchamps, but certainly not the start we were hoping for. And you'll be happy to see this, Peter. It's BMW 1 through 2, 3 at the moment.
I'm very impartial, but I do love this car. It's a beautiful car. Not in service anymore, and actually did win the Spa 24 Hours in the real world for another fantastic Belgian racing team, Mark VDS, owned by Mark van der Straten, very successful Belgian brewing tycoon. But yes, it looked like Dirk Reske and Koen Mulder both had their own accident, and you highlighted it, Hasse. You know, that Eau Rouge corner in a single-seater car, you can pretty much hold it flat. As we see, oh no, the Ford's off. No, the Ford, no.
Pio.
No,
Let's see.
the Ford
it's
watch.
been...
Oh no, oh that hurts me. That really hurts me to see the Ford damaged. That beautiful coupe shape. That hurts me on a deep level, Hasse, that is. But yes, you mentioned it, Dirk Reske, and oh, big punt. Oh, big punt indeed. Stephen Arel gets sent into the wall. Well, that's not so. Most of the grid in pit lane getting repairs, but not so for Dean Pavicic, the pole sitter. He is clearing off out front in that beautiful BMW. Brilliant drive so far from the man in the number 15 BMW. But yes, I'll finally get it out. Eau Rouge, you know, it's in a single-seater car, you just hold it flat and off you go. But in these GT3 cars, normally not so. And especially, I think both Dirk Reske and Koen Mulder both got caught out on cold tyres there, because when you're going right then left and you're on the cold tyres, it can easily get into a little bit of a twitch. And well, those cars, of course, both mid-engine cars, and they got into a big twitch and they were straight in the wall. And of course, that just created a bit of a chain reaction. But for Kamal Hashimi, he's been one of the big movers. He's up to 7th place right now. And also, our very own Jack Werrell started outside the top 30, and he's up to 16th. A fantastic job from him too.
Yeah, indeed, it's been very atrocious over the opening 5 minutes here. It's much more a question of surviving there. We see Jack Werrell flashing his lights in the background there. It might just be for the mention, or there might have been a bit of an incident here as he's piloting the 65 machine. He's on the tail of Nils Cornelis, and Nils Cornelis is not gonna stand a great chance, I think, as they come up to the Kemmel straight. He is carrying some sort of damage with that engine in the front. Look at the speed difference for Jack Werrell here, who's got big overspeed. He's going to take that Antoine Hubert car past that BMW up into the top 15. Impressive stuff for Werrell there. I'm a little bit surprised to see that he didn't qualify. He might be just aiming for this last to first kind of challenge that he's well on to at the moment. Up ahead here is Martin de Jong, Justin Nair, and Alfredo Tricarici, the Argentine driver, in 10th place. And close to one another indeed, having a bit of a brawl. And further up as well, it's Eric Teesters and Eric Fillet, or of course Nils Teesters, I'm sorry, and Eric Fillet close to one another. And look at this now, Valdez Suarez Jr. appearing from the, well, pretty much out of nowhere, in behind as well. So a good battle there for second, third, and, well, of course, do apologize on that one as well. It is, of course, third, fourth, and fifth place this, but it doesn't change the fact that they are close and that they are bunching up to my best of, to what I can see here. Justin Nair is gonna be well kept within the slipstream there. I think he's picked up a bit of damage at the front end of the car, and whoever's kept it clean is going to be in for a major advantage over the rest of this race, the remaining half hour or so.
certainly is. Although in 40 minutes it might seem like a sprint race, but really around here at Spa, so easy to make a mistake. It's such a challenge for the driver that if, like you say, Hasse, if you can get around as Alfredo Tricarici just takes a little look up the inside of Justin Nair, but not able to make a move. But yes, keeping clean, very important, as we see Valder Suarez Jr., your championship leader. He's now making a move. Let's see. It looks like he's going to try this into La Sorte. Oh, a little mistake for one of the BMWs there. And that allows the run, and that will hurt him all the way up through Eau Rouge and all the way up the Kemmel Straight as well. If you make a mistake out of La Sorte, you are punished severely for it.
Yeah, but look at this here. So Nils Teesters gets a bit of a shove there. And just wondered, he wasn't ahead there. Oh, and there's been a problem for Drew Williams. Oh, my word, that's a huge one indeed. Drew Williams there. Well, I was just hoping that we would be able to catch a little more of what actually happened to Drew in that situation, but that was a big, bad incident. If ever I've seen one. Dejan Pavicic, 8.5 minutes or so into the race, still leading. Artie Buskard on his SimracerCoin Sunday GT3 World League debut. The Dutchman sitting second here. Very, very good job from him as well. And then Eric Verley, then Nils Teesters and Valder Suarez Jr. And they're all really beginning to gang up, because look at this. The championship contenders are now 5th, 6th and 7th, because we've got Pete Plastow and we've got Kamal Hashimi coming from their lesser grip. Oh, look at this! Valder Suarez! We haven't seen him make many mistakes there, and now he's going to have to defend from Plastow.
Yeah, quite a strange mistake to run wide there, coming out of the Fania chicane. Let's have a look again. Maybe catches the inside curb. That's a bizarre incident. Just maybe it gets a little bit on the throttle, that little bit too early, but does very, very well not to spin on the gravel there. Does lose one spot, or loses a bit of ground at least. So Valder Suarez Jr. just have to try and recover a little bit. But yeah, an interesting incident, that one, as we see, Kamal Hashimi getting a little bit tasty there with Pete Plastow. Moves across in the braking zone and goes past Pete Plastow. So Kamal Hashimi on the move now in the Audi R8.
So it's all going on here. 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Very close to one another. And it seems Eric Verley is not really able to run away from these guys. Nils Teesters is there at 4th, and then Suarez, who will be happy not to have been in the wall after that excursion to the gravel trap before he kept his speed, kept his momentum, and kept the car running well in position. Didn't lose anyone there. Oh, and I think Dion Newell has had some kind of problem here. And I'm gonna just see if we can recall that that's on the exit of La Sorte. So I think there must have been... Oh, what happened there? He just went across on Tricarici. That was really strange to see from my perspective there. Oh, and Valder Suarez Jr., our championship leader, is in the wall.
He's in the wall, and he is back to pit lane. You'll see why. If you wonder why his car has disappeared there off the screen,
there
he has taken the electronic toe off screen to pit lane, and moves right across on
Hashimi.
Massive, and that is at one of the Whoa! That is one of the fastest parts of the circuit at the end of the Kemmel Straight. So let's get another look then. Kamal Hashimi moves to the other side, and Suarez just moves straight across. Nothing that Kamal Hashimi can do, and they're both taking out the race. That is a bizarre mistake there from Valder Suarez Jr. Something we're really not used to seeing at all.
I think he was coming across quite heavily indeed, but I think he was also... They were experiencing a little bit of netcode issues there. I think that was what it looked like to me, but I think for him to just play with those kind of margins would have been very, 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 very difficult indeed. Oh, here's Jack Werrell. He's up into 9th place. Jack Werrell is absolutely hammering it today. And someone just went around there, and I think that was... Oh, and Artie Buskard has got off. It's been absolutely insane moments here. Artie Buskard, who has been off at the exit of... Oh, but he keeps it on. So that's good stuff from him indeed. Jack Werrell up into 8th place now. Tricarici 7th, Martin de Jong in 6th, Pete Plastow up into 5th place. Teaster's 4th. We've got Eric Ferlet in 3rd. Artie Buskard, the debutant, in 2nd place. And then in the lead still Dejan Pavicic, who's looking very strong, very stable out there in his BMW. But I don't think we've seen the last turnaround of this race yet. We have a lot of cars in the pits at the moment. And certainly, we cannot have seen the last of any kind of turnarounds. Here comes Gaston Boré with a move on Timo Paya. He goes up the inside, and he gets it done. I was just about to say, gets it done in a rather skittish way there, and there's been another pass there in behind as well. It's all happening here at the midfield. So let's just get back to live action. Got a couple of good battles here. One at the bottom of affairs here. Gaston Boré, Timo Paya, and Jacob Gibson, who's there in the in the 18th position machine. That's the number 25 car, I believe. But this is 16th, 17th, and 18th place. EJ Fueller's gained 15 positions. He's up into 11th. Jack Warrell. Peter, Jack Warrell, our colleague, he's been putting in a brilliant drive. He's risen through the field. He's climbed 22 positions to be sitting well up the top 10 with a clean car. And let's just try and remember what's been happening in front of Jack on his way through the field here as well. So, and Jack Warrell, what just happened?
Looked like a technical failure there for Jack. That's very strange. Car went perfectly straight. He does have a new wheel that they got this week, and yeah, the car goes, oh, that's huge. Thank God that doesn't happen in the real world very often, because that is a big one. Yeah, also interestingly, Jack had been charging up really well, and he actually had turned round Boré in the Ferrari, who was running in 8th, and turned him around and made his way through, and luckily got away with no damage at all. Unfortunately not for Boré in the Ferrari, but couple of laps later, yeah, that's a very strange one for Jack. He might well come and join us in the commentary box to give us an impression of what happened, but I would suspect that's a technical failure with his sim racing equipment of some description.
There was absolutely no kind of reaction whatsoever from his wheel there as he went through, so that's what it looks like as well to me here. 15 minutes more or less throughout the race. Sorry for the squeaky chair as I'm trying to get comfortable. But it's such a shame to see Jack was doing such a brilliant job in that Antoine Hubert Memorial Livery, and big commentators curse indeed, Mew. That was a huge one. Yet again, we have to say a very good job there. Artie Buskard, and they make contact there. And that's Dion Newell and Pedro Marimon. No, that's not. That's Dion Newell and Timo Paya, of course. So, huge moment there for Jack Warrell. That must be happy that happened to him in a simulator, just as you said before, Peter. Here's Nils Teasters and Pete Plastow. And you know what? Pete Plastow, if he can just make it through, he might be the one to really gain and win from this. If he can just climb up through, and he's done so. He's done well already throughout this race. He's gained 4 positions. He's got a clean car still to race with. And I think if he can just keep it alive, he's going to be looking at some really good championship points. Because, let's see, Valdez Suarez. Well, he's out running again, Valdez Suarez. He's in 20th place. And I believe he's the last car to still be on the lead lap. But that car, to me, Peter, doesn't look too good.
It doesn't, no. And our drivers do not have the option of an iRacing fast repair, which gives an instant repair effectively. When they do get back to pit lane, they have to repair the damage, and sometimes you can be in some pit lane for some time. And for an accident of the magnitude of Jack Warrell's accident there, well, that seemed terminal. As I've just looked in the session right now, Jack Warrell has disconnected from the session, so he has retired. He is out of this race.
Big shame indeed to lose Jack, and he was on a brilliant drive. It would have been beautiful to watch him continue his way throughout the field. Here is Nils Teasters, who is now beginning to really feel that. Look at this, Pete Plastow getting closer and closer to his gearbox, aiming for the exit from the source. coming up towards Rouge now. And a bit of position changing going on behind here with Coelho, and let's just see, they're coming out the final corner. And just another look at that. Oh, they might have banged doors against one another. Someone's entering the pits there. Mind you, they will have to have a single pit stop at least to get through the race.
So I notice we do have a Jack Werrell joining us in the commentary box. Hasse, shall we get him in to have a little chat, see if we can get a bit of a debrief on what happened there?
Yeah, indeed, Jack. What a shame to see a huge accident happening for you there in Pouhon. Looked like a disconnecting wheel. Was that indeed the case?
Yeah, you could say that. So I've got a new wheel, and I'm still getting used to it. And the type of rim, it's a Formula rim, and I still need a little bit of work on the force feedback. And I hit a curb coming out of No Name Corner, I think it is, and it snapped my wheel around, and my hand. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the Fanatec CSW 2.5 wheelbase. There's a big start button, and I clearly hit that with my finger, and then the wheel turned off. So it was sort of just kept the controls or kept the inputs that were currently in there. So it was just accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. And as soon as I got the wheel back in, was as soon as I hit the wall. So it probably wasn't a great idea to then grab hold of the wheel. But yeah, it's a shame. I thought I was doing quite well. A bit of a scrappy race. Got caught out a couple of times. I was trying to follow people maybe a little bit too closely and got caught out on the brakes. But from P30 to P8 in what 15 minutes, I was hoping for a good race, but it was terminal like Peter said, so I won't be getting back out this evening, which is a shame.
Yeah, big shame indeed, Jack, and I hope you're all right, because to be fair, with an accident of that magnitude, you need to keep your hands away from the steering wheel, because anything more powerful than a Logitech G29 will be able to hurt your hands, as Pete Pastow gets very close to the rear end of Nils Teesters there. You could probably hear indeed, Jack. But Jack, poor luck. Better luck next time. I don't think you've had any good luck so far this season. So we're just gonna see what happens when we get that bad luck sorted and get you out racing for proper. Let's just see here. We've had a problem for Gaston Bory. And that is in Pouhon, and he goes around and around into the inside wall, picks it up, and picks up some more damage. Oh, and Pete Plastow getting closer and closer to the rear end of Nils Teesters.
So we're coming up to half race distance then, here in the SimracerCoin GT3 World Series, and normally these GT3 cars can run just under an hour on a full tank of fuel, but our drivers are only given a 45% fuel cell. So we're getting towards their pit window where they will need to come in and get some more fuel. Now, of course, a number of drivers will have come into pit lane to repair damage. So for those drivers who are now back out on circuit, they should have enough fuel to get them to the end. But for our leaders, Pavicic, Bossart and Verlet, Tasters, Plastow, etc., they will need to come in the next couple of minutes to fill up and get them to the end of this 40-minute race.
Yeah, indeed they will need to come in, and that might be what Pete Plastow is hoping for. Is seeming to struggle with finding a way past Nils Teesters at the moment. Next level racing. And Nils Teesters, if I'm not completely mistaken, actually also having his first race of this series here tonight. And as we're just past the halfway point of this race, it's going to be interesting to see how they approach the strategy. Pavicic at the moment leading by 7.5 seconds to Artie Buskard, and then further 3.5 seconds to Eric Verlet, who now, for the first time this race, has a bit of clear space behind there, down to Nils Teesters. And Pete Plastow, actually the first of the leaders to pit in, alongside Alfredo Tricarici as well, who's come into the pit lane here. And it's going to be interesting to see whatever difference that's going to make, that they come in a little bit earlier Some would, I think, prefer to run it as deep in as possible, and I just realized that that might have sounded very wrong, so I do apologize for that one. But to run as far into the race as possible before making the pit stop, because that in turn allows you in the end to run a lighter car at the end of the race. But the other way around, you could have had a lighter car at the beginning if you try to run it as a 50-50. And both things, honestly, could be working out just fine in the end. So it'll just be interesting to see just how they stack up here. Martin de Jong in the 79 machine, Peter, is up into 5th place. That's, of course, virtually going to be, might be just that little bit further down the order. Don't really know how he compares to the drivers who's just gone into the pits, but he came from what do we think, like 17th on the grid to be 5th now. So good job for Martin as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of big moves up and down here in this race. Spa really catching a lot of drivers out. It would be really interesting to see what the track temperature is in the sim for this race, because of course iRacing is able to simulate what the temperature or the track temperature would do to the performance of the vehicle. It's an incredibly sophisticated simulator, iRacing.com service, and that track temperature can have such a big effect on the grip. If the track temperature is excessively high, that makes the grip really quite greasy and quite slippy, and that can cause problems as well. Also here at Spa, these curbs can be quite tricky as well, and sometimes these, particularly the mid-engined GT3 cars, really can get quite unsettled over the curbs as well. The front-engine cars don't have it so bad. Now we might be about to get up. Yes, there is a perfect example of a tricky mid-engine car. That horrible snap back where that weight transfer, big heavy. In the Audi, for example, you've got a big heavy V10 engine, 5.2 liters, so very heavy engine, and when it moves around, it's a lot of momentum bringing with it. So now looking at Pedro Marimon Cladera in the Mercedes, now he was actually, before he even took the green flag, he was pointing in the wrong direction at the bus stop, which is not what you want to be doing, and he's recovered very well in this beautiful Japanese anime car in a Mercedes. A strange combination, German and Japanese, but it works in this instance, and he's running up in 11th place right now. So if he can just run some more clean laps, he could get himself a very strong finish indeed, and he's up now to 7th. So the order changing all the time now, with some drivers coming in to take their pit stop.
Yeah, indeed, and there is actually perfect sense to this livery. It's a GT300 livery, because the AMG GT3 is indeed run in the Japanese Super GT series as a GT3 privateer car against some other European GT3 cars, but also some of the more exotic Japanese GT300 builds, and of course the very high downforce GT500 machines as well. So that is the connection to that one. But of course, Japanese motorsport's a bit of a different game and a different ballpark in the end. And a lot of European race fans aren't really necessarily able to follow along. That alone comes down to races being, well, at least if you want to catch them live as they happen, they do seem to be a little bit off timing wise for us Europeans. No real surprises there. So we have had the opening pit stop for Dean Pavicic, 15 or 14 minutes actually, just underneath that for the end of the race. So an interesting one there to see if any of the followers, but look at that, they're not going to be anywhere near. I think here Boscard comes in, here's Furley, Nils Teasters as well, so they're still close actually, these three, surprisingly close. And then Martin de Jong, he's not too far behind either. Dean Pavicic is going to be in a very good position. Look at this Pete Plastow, he's going to be taking the entirety of this bunch. If they're not very careful. Pete Plastow's gonna go right around the outside of everyone here into a really good position. He's not gonna take them all. He's gonna take Nils Teasters, and he's gonna be up into 4th place. So 1 position gain for Pete Plastow, who was 5th before the pit stop round. It's now Pavicic, Boscard, Verlet, and then Pete Plastow. He's very close here. And speaking of very close, look at Eric Verlet, who's now right on the bumper of Artie Boscard, and the Mercedes is hunting down the BMW now on the Kemmel straight. He's looking just to get up on the inside, and is he going to be able to pass through? Artie Boscard isn't really giving him too much room, and he just about muscles his way through without making any kind of contact. Pete Plastow's licking his lips now because he's coming right onto him, and the 3-way battle for 2nd place now developing. And this is going to be looking really good for Dean Pavicic up ahead as well. Nils Teasters, who's going to be close enough to take part here as well. And then a massive 18-second gap down to Martin de Jong. Tricorici there in 7th. Robert van den Heuvel is in 8th place. So a good race so far here from the number 23 car of the Lobster. We've got Nils Cornelissen behind in 9th. And Mauricio Coelho, the Brazilian, to round off the top 10.
Yeah, this battle up front, of course, Dean Pavicic is, well, he's controlling his lead. He's got a big lead. He's been driving flawlessly in that BMW Z4 GT3. But further back, Verlet, Boscard, Plastow, Teasters, very, very strong battle there. And there's going to be a couple of guys who are going to be disappointed missing out on the podium. But look at that, viewers, on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, that 41 degrees Celsius track temperature. That is excessively high. Particularly for here in at Spa, and that track temperature is going to make it really tricky for our drivers, particularly towards the end of the race, because the grip level is going to be getting really quite slick, quite greasy, and really tricky for our drivers. And for drivers like Dean Pavicic in the front engine BMW, or maybe also the front engine Mercedes, going to be a little bit more stable, just a little bit easier to manage on the limits. We see Damien Koba going a little bit wide at the La Source hairpin. He's nursing a lot of damage on the front of his Mercedes.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit more than a little bit, Peter. That was quite a lot wide. That was almost as wide as you can get for Damien Koba. But to be fair on the pole, that car isn't really looking too good now, is it? Here is Artie Boscard, who has been passed by Eric Verlet.
Pete Plastow here coming down the inside here at the Kemmel straight in his Ferrari. Oh, Boscard thinks about shutting the door and thinks better of it and decides to yield to Plastow in the Ferrari. So Plastow moves up into the final podium position. Let's get a look at this. Of course, the Kemmel straight, known for setting up these moves, heading down into Les Combes. And you just see Artie Boscard coming across, making it difficult, but just backing out of that sideways move there just at the right moment. That could have ended up in tears, but thankfully it did not.
It indeed didn't. So now Pavicic leading Verlet and Pete Plastow, Artie Boscard, Martin de Jong, Tricorici, van den Heuvel. Oh, and what happened there? I think oh, what's happened to Nils Teasters? Nils Teasters, he's gone off on the Kemmel straight. The car's twitching all of a sudden. I cannot find an explanation to that. I just cannot. And he's in the pits. And Pete Plastow, Boscard will be, well, pretty happy for that. He's gained a position, I think, in the end. But we're seeing some weird incidents here tonight, Peter. That looked something like maybe no hands-on wheel, oscillating wheel, trying to take off a hot shirt or whatever. It could be some uncomfortability issue, maybe trying to get a sip of water or something. Steering wheel disconnected for Nils Teasters, he said in chat. Oh, so that's the reason. And so that's pretty much the same problem. That's twice, well, for slightly different reasons. but more or less still twice that's happened in one single race for two different drivers. So that's very, very unlucky indeed here as we're watching Pedro Marimon and Jose Coutinho, the Portuguese, chasing the Spaniard here, but this Audi, the number 24 Jeff Gordon livered car, is not in a good state, and I think it will struggle to keep up with the Mercedes of Pedro Marimon, now up into 11th place. And
yeah, but Barrera, his car looking very clean indeed, and I think that's going to be the key. You also see Eric Verlet, his Mercedes looking very nice as well, Pete Plastow. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the drivers heading at the very much at the front of this race have very little damage on their cars. That's been the secret today, hasn't it? Or that's been the key to success, just keeping the car out of trouble. We've seen a lot of accidents, a lot of big incidents, and those drivers who've been able to keep it clean, well, they've been rewarded. And your championship leader, well, he's had 3 wins in a row so far. Well, he's not going to win here today. Valdir Suarez Jr. back in 15th place after that incident earlier on.
Just having a look throughout the standings, I'm afraid Kamal Hashimi, I think, has completely retired from the race. Oh, and we've had a problem not too long ago here for EJ Fuellner. And you know what, that's a big shame because that Audi looks almost clean to me. And then through Lecomte there, he picks up that inside tire barrier. Oh, Pete Plastow, look at this, Pete Plastow. And that's in the... Oh, he cuts a lot. Quite a lot there. Anyways, back to EJ Fuellner here, our race leader with 6 minutes remaining of the race. It's Dean Pavicic, looking strong as ever. He's led from lights to flag. It's looked pretty good here. Look at this, Eric Verlet now with the company from Pete Plastow.
Yeah, this is going to be very tight all the way to the end. Mercedes versus Ferrari. It's Hakkinen versus Schumacher all over again as they head to the Kemmel Straight. Remember that? McLaren for Mercedes with Hakkinen, Ferrari with Schumacher. This is a throwback indeed. And look at Pete Plastow. He's got the run in the Ferrari. He goes to the inside as they head towards Lecombe, side by side. Who's going to be later on the brakes? Verlet goes very, very late. Is he going to allow Plastow by? No, they have a little...
It's going to end in tears for him!
Plastow gets tipped around. Oh, a hip check from Verlet, and that puts Pete Plastow around. He joins onto the circuit, thankfully quite safely. But that's going to be an interesting one. How do you see this one, Hasse?
Yeah, just an interesting one. They go into the corners side by side. Pete Plastow there in the Ferrari 312 machine on the inside. And of course, Eric Verlet in the Mercedes. Then look at this. Verlet slides, gets on. And then you know what? Pete Plastow, I think that might be the slightest of netcoats. But just look, Eric Verlet cannot really do much else. He's on the inside of him. He's not just going to disappear. He can't really go anywhere. He doesn't have much more space to give on the left-hand side. So in the end, I think that falls back on Pete Plastow. But the fact for me looks like another netcode incident, I'm afraid. That woeful N-word we never want to hear in these type of situations. Netcode. So that's it's been an issue today, I'm afraid. And it was... for that situation as well. Artie Bosgaard has gained a position from that. He's up into 3rd place. Eric Verlet now 2nd. It spread that battle out, and that's a bit of a shame because I think that was actually more or less the closest battle we had on track. But indeed, Mew, it didn't look like contact to me, and I'd be very surprised to see if it actually was. Let's see, look at this. I'm just going to see if we can catch another... So that's not going to help us much, is it? I'm just going to see if we can catch... It doesn't... You don't hear the contact either, so... I'd be very surprised to see if there actually was contact here. In 3rd place, now 3 minutes of race left. And at the podium end, of his debut race, Artie Busscart, looking very good indeed in the number 102 BMW.
Yeah, 2 BMWs on the podium right now as it stands, although still a little bit left to go in this race. But you just see those BMWs, they're just so planted and it just really works. Of course, Hasse, you ran in the Spa 24-hour race, the virtual Spa 24-hour race here on iRacing.com, and quite a lot of drivers opting for the BMW for that race. A brilliant endurance car, very easy to drive consistently over a long period.
Yeah, it is, and I think sometimes thinking back to it, I wish we'd gone for it as well, maybe a bit, because we went for the McLaren, which is fast, and which is for most part for every single corner, at least with the setup we ran. We had a car that was perfectly predictable through every single corner except for Blanchimont, where you had to be so confident in the car and really actually push quite hard on the throttle through the corner for the car to be stable. But I had a hard time really getting used to that way of having to drive the car, and I ended up wrecking it in Blanchimont. So to make matters worse, both teammates of mine had put in brilliant stints. We were in the top 5. We were doing super well. So yeah, but the 24 hours of Spa is a very tough race. As we can see, it's been a tough 40 minutes here as well, as Pete Plastow has found out at the spicy end of things here as well, as we're heading into the final minute of things. And with that said, I think it's going to be the final lap. I'm actually pretty damn sure it is going to be the final lap for Dejan Pavicic. As he rounds the finish line, he's got 8 seconds, which I think is going to be enough down to Eric Ferlet in the Mercedes. Artie Busscart is not going to be close enough, of course, except for the case if Eric Ferlet makes a major mistake on the final lap. It's going to allow him back, and positions to change within the top 3, though I don't think that's going to be happening here. We've got Martin de Jong, though, in 5th place. He is actually getting caught here, I think, by Alfredo Tricorici. They must have been closing in over the last couple of laps. Let's see their last laps here. Tricorici 3/10 up, so we do actually have a couple of cars not too far from one another, but it will take, again, also I think a couple of minor mistakes at least from de Jong to allow Tricorici in. Tricorici's made up a good number of positions, but that actually goes for a good bit of the field here as Tricorici goes a little bit wide. Was he extending out there to just gain a little bit of that extra speed that could get him into the toe? If so, I think that might have been a little bit of a dirty move, but of course it's not an easy corner to get right either there at the top of Radillon. So he'd be apologized. In the case, it was just an honest mistake. Robert van den Heuvel now is in 7th place. He's climbed 12 places up the order. Nils Cornelis has gone up by 15 places from his starting number, and the same goes to Coelho there in 9th. Stephen Kral is in 10th. Pedro Marimon in 11th, and then EJ Fuellner is in 12th. Paul Rozek in 13th place. And then in 14th, championship leader Valdez Suarez Jr. So still running here as we're following the battle between de Jong and Tricorici. And up ahead, the gap seems to be closing as well between Artie Busscart and Pete Plastow, but it's not going to be enough. However, it's going to be the checkered flag for Dejan Pavicic to break the winning streak of Valdez Suarez Jr. and take the win here, round 4 at Spa. Eric Ferlet come home for 2nd place, and on his debut, Artie Busscart takes a very, very good 3rd place. Pete Plastow gets 4th in the end, another solid run for the Brit, and good championship points coming home in the bank for the Ferrari driver in his campaign towards that championship title. Here's Martin de Jong coming home for 5th place. And in 6th, it is indeed Tricorici crossing the line. And then Robert van den Heuvel coming up as next. He is crossing the line right about now as well. coming home for 7th. It's Cornelis 8th, and then Coelho in 9th. He's making his way through as well, with Steven Kral rounding off the top 10.
A brilliant drive from Pavicic. Absolutely flawless. 40 minutes of racing and good qualifying as well, getting that critical front row grid spot to try and avoid the usual carnage at La Source, which we actually didn't see this time, strangely. It all happened later on. But fantastic job from Eric Verlet as well to hold off Oscar, the series newcomer. Good for him to get an opening podium, but what a disaster for Suarez Jr. And after three wins in a row, that changes the championship quite a bit.
Indeed it does. I think it's gonna allow some of those drivers right around to actually get right back there. But remember, Kamal Hashemi, who was sharing second plate with Peter Plastow coming into this race, was wiped out in that incident alongside Valdir Suarez. And there was a strange incident indeed there. Peter Plastow is going to be the big winner here, as well as Eric Verlet, who's going to be getting into that championship fight, and maybe alongside Tricarici, who's in 6th with 46 points. But yeah, we're going to see just how that develops on as the season goes on. And speaking of the season going on, the next race we will have from this season is on September 20th. So another 3-week break before we have the race of the now, I guess, a bit older Zandvoort track in the Netherlands. And I think it's going to be my first commentary from Zandvoort there, so that's going to be an interesting one indeed. Anyway, we're going to see if we have any of the drivers coming in for our interview waiting room. Of course, we would like to speak to any of the podium finishers or any other drivers actually wanting to come in. Feel free right about now, if it should be, as we've got the last couple of drivers just bringing the car around on the cool-down lap, bringing it in to the pit lane, and for the end of the race. And a really good race, an attritional one. I think we could have been without that big incident on the Kemmel Straight on the first lap that took out a number of cars. We had cars flying. It was a huge one indeed, and certainly it became atrocious early on. It kept on being atrocious for 40 minutes here, and Dejan Pavicic in the end was the one to pick it up. But let's just see if we cannot get any interviews, and maybe we can get some race results in for you on screen here. Indeed, Dejan Pavicic in front of Eric Verlet, Adi Bosgaard, Pete Plastow 4th, Martin de Jong in 5th, and then Tricarici and Robin van den Heuvel 6th and 7th. Then it's Nils Cornelis, it's Mauricio Coelho, the Brazilian, in 9th. As I mentioned before, the top 10, Steven Kral. Then Cledera, EJ Fielner, Paul Rozak, Valdir Suarez 14th, Timo Paya, Jose Godinho, Nils Teasters there 17th. So he, having done a really strong race, he dropped quite a bit of way back after his incident. That is a big shame indeed. Then Dean Newell. And as you see, it's just people who didn't manage to complete the race who make out the bottom end of the standings there. A couple of very unlucky drivers as well for this one, it has to be said, I believe, because we saw multiple deconnecting wheels and such. That is, however, what it is. Gonna invite in Dejan Pavicic, who is now
Yes.
in the booth with us here. Nice to have you along, Dejan. What a brilliant drive indeed. Pole position, a really good start, and then you almost made it look easy with a lights to flag win there. I take it that even though you could maybe give us a really good Mika Häkkinen impression, that it wasn't easy in the end.
Thank you, and greetings to everybody. It seems easy, but it was not so easy. I was sweating complete, and I was training a little bit more than usually, and I didn't expect a pole position and win this race, because in our group it's really fast drivers. And thank you to everybody, especially to Robert, for putting this together. and for you to broadcast our race. I hope that it's a little bit more interesting than Formula 1 today.
Yeah, indeed. And did you expect to be able to take pole positions by almost 9/10 of a second, or did you know that you were strong here at Spa?
No, I expect that other guys gonna be faster. I was a little bit surprised when I have so much on the front of other people racing difference almost 1 second. I am really surprised, and I check again what I'm doing, and I don't do nothing special than usually. It's my time not so fast last week when I trained, but I think that is today my day, finally.
It very much was your day today, Dean. Beautiful race, beautiful race. Now, before we let you go, you're from the booth. Is there anyone you would like to shout out after such a beautiful drive?
Everybody who watch this Sim Racer World, and thank you to all drivers from leagues and family, and Eric and Robert and the other guys from the group, and of course you. I hope to be meeting you next for 2 weeks again.
Well, thanks, and we'll be looking forward to it as well, Dean. Hope to see you for a top 3 interview at the end of the race. Brilliant job. Congrats on the win, and take care, mate.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening. Bye.
So that was Dean Pavicic, and with that, I'm gonna head and give you over to Peter MacKay, who's gonna have a word with Eric Verlet.
Eric Verlet, a brilliant drive today at Spa Francorchamps. Tell us about your 40 minutes out there on that wonderful circuit.
Well, thank you very much. Honestly, it was a really unexpected surprise for me because my result, I didn't expect that at all. During practice, I didn't have the pace, but for some reason I could manage it during the race, so I'm really happy with this. And well, I kept out of trouble, of course, and I was able to catch up the guys in front of me. And I think I was a little bit lucky with Pete Plestau because he was trying to overtake me, and something went wrong over there. I didn't saw exactly what happened over there, but I'm really happy with second place. Yes, especially after my last race where I was really unlucky. But thank you.
Now, of course, there was, as they refer to it in the NASCAR world, they call it the big one when nearly half the field wipe out at places like Daytona and Talladega. Well, we had our very own big one tonight at Spa coming out of Eau Rouge and Radion. Tell us about your driver's eye view from that particular incident. Were you behind it? Were you in the middle of it? How did you find it?
If you mean the wreckage in the first lap,
Yeah.
I was seeing it in front of me. I was immediately lifting the throttle, and I was able to pass it without any damage. But I was a bit lucky over there. But you have to have luck over there, because otherwise, yeah, it was kind of a mess. Yes, for sure.
I can imagine, indeed. And of course, it's I believe we have a home field advantage for you next time out. We're off to Zandvoort. Of course, it's a circuit which has had a little bit of development lately for when the Formula One eventually comes along. But it's a wonderful circuit, one of my favourites. How do you feel about going over to there next time out?
It's a really beautiful circuit, of course, but I don't believe in home advantage because for me it's really challenging, honestly. I think it will be a nice race, but it will be hard as well, especially compared to Spa. Yeah,
I agree. One of my favourite things about Zandvoort is all the fried fish trucks along the seafront and the kibbling. That's my favourite. That's one of my favourite things about going to Zandvoort.
I fully understand you. I know that. And when I'm visiting Zandvoort, I'm always trying to catch up some fish or fries over there. I like the place for sure, especially next to the beach.
Fantastic stuff. Well, hopefully we'll get to chat more about that. We'll hopefully see you on the podium next time out at Zandvoort. Great job today. Go and enjoy your podium finish.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So with that was Eric Verlet, and that's going to be the last of our interviews for today as well. And that's going to be rounding off the broadcast for tonight as well here of the 4th round of the SimracerCoin GT3 World League, which has been eventful to say the least. Thank you so much for joining in, everyone, on our YouTube channel, on Twitch, and on Facebook. Leave us a like if you've liked what you've seen, and go and subscribe if you want to see more. Of course, you can catch other brilliant commentators such as the wizard that is Jazz Drakehead, and the lovely and very talented and strong cursed young Jack Well, who was at the receiving end of a commentator's curse for tonight for once. Of course, you've got myself, you've got the knowledgeable Peter MacKay as well, and a host of other great folks here, so plenty of reason to do that. Anyways, we'll be back with the SimracerCoin GT3 World League Sunday GT3 World League in 3 weeks' time from now, and I think all that really remains to be said from there on is until then, I'm Hasse Rømer, I've been joined by Peter MacKay, and take care, have fun, bye bye.